on the clap. Hey, hi Molly. I'm so glad to be meeting with you today. And so let's just jump right in and start by telling us a little bit about yourself.
That's a huge question.
Yeah, right.
You have
Like,
no
yeah,
idea.
just like summarize, 40 plus years of living in, a few sentences.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sure. So I am Molly. I am a sound healer, yoga instructor, educator, author, Reiki master practitioner, singer. I've done lots of things, also a mom. I've been doing lots of things. Where I'm landing right now is kind of it's a big new chapter in my life and incorporating the sound healing and moving into some coaching as well for teachers, because that's where my big career has been, or most of my career has been in teaching for the last 30 years. Um, I was a music major as an undergrad, voice major. I studied opera. I was not so fond of opera at the time, but that's all that there was to study. They didn't have all these cool like jazz and different things that you can do now. Wasn't considered, what I can't think of a word for it.
Academic,
But
wasn't academic enough or whatever,
right,
right?
right. It wasn't academic enough. So I studied opera, but I knew I wanted to go into music. I wasn't really sure what that was. At the same time, I'm going to reveal my age now. So around the 1980s, and this is the big boom of Japan coming, all things Japan in the United States. So Japanese companies were buying land and businesses were starting. And so businesses were pushing towards Japan being like the next place. That's, if you want to go into business, learn Japanese. So here I am, a music major, not wanting to go into opera, wanting to do music. And then I'm hearing all these things about Japan. So I put all that together in my little mind and decided to take Japanese courses, Japanese language courses, and I started studying literature as well. Um, and then my sorry, I don't know if you hear my dog. She has a hard time breathing. My
Oh,
poor dog. She's just like, you see her snorting down here. um,
just sip
so
Reiki to her.
yes. So I decided to write my master's, or not my master's, my undergraduate thesis about Japanese music, Japanese traditional music, which was so cool to me because it's not written on five staff like Western style music,
Uh,
sheet music. So either they had their own way of writing it, or there was no sheet music. It was just rote memorization. So that was just like so fascinating to me. Um, as I was taking one of these classes, one of the Japanese teachers was like, "Hey, there's this program where you can go to Japan and study English. If you're interested, I've got, here's how you apply." So I applied. Next thing I knew, after graduation, I was on my way to Japan. I ended up staying for 11 years in Japan. I thought maybe one or two. 11 years later,
wow.
yeah, I came back to Japan, or back to the States in 2000. While I was there, I was teaching English as a new language or as a second language. I was also doing some like translation for Japanese. I ended up doing my master's degree in ethnomusicology while I was there at like a really good music school, kind of like the Juilliard of Japan.
Wow. How exciting.
It was so cool. Then, yeah, so I was, of course, I was studying the music, like learning the music myself, and that's kind of how I got into it. About a year after I moved to Japan, I started learning this music. I retrained my voice to
Mhm.
sound more Japanese, to sound Japanese, like a Japanese person singing Japanese folk songs. So
Right.
opera was like out the door. Couldn't do that anymore. Even if I tried to sing, even today, if I tried to sing more Western style music, people are like, you sound Japanese.
That's funny. That's
Yeah.
really funny.
Yeah, but I could, when I was there, I could fool, like if people were not looking at my face, they would think it was a Japanese person singing the songs. So that
Yeah.
was kind of cool. So that really figuring out how to make that vocal tone. And that was actually what my master's thesis was on, was like how to create those tones, and
Hmm.
can a non-Japanese person create those sounds, the tone of the music, to sound Japanese, not just mimic, but to actually do it.
Right.
So that was really cool. So yeah, so then I came back to the States. I got a job as a high school teacher teaching Japanese. And I've been doing that for the past 19 years. There's 2 years in there. There's kind of, I don't know what I was doing, different things, trying to figure out what I was doing after coming back to the States. Um, I got the job as a Japanese teacher about 5 years ago. Was the big transformation was I took a yoga class, this one yoga class, one
Okay.
summer. Yep.
Before we get into the yoga, I want
Yeah.
to, as we will get there, but
Yeah.
I'm really interested in talking a little bit about the difference that you might have noticed, like in your body and the expression and how it felt between singing opera and where opera comes from, and in your body and how that is expressed versus the Japanese folk singing. Because I want to say there are some YouTube videos up, and since we're recording this, I'm going to stick a couple in here in post
Awesome.
production to show people, because I'm a singer myself and a sound healer, and so like I really noticed immediately, like the Japanese folk song comes from a very different place in your
Yes.
body. So yeah, talk to us about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So, few there, yeah, that's actually specifically what my master's thesis was about. So,
Oh, cool. I didn't even know
exactly.
that part, but
Yeah. My thesis was, what I did in my thesis was I did these experiments, because I went through and I had retrained my voice to be able to sing the Japanese songs. And then I went back and I retrained my voice again to sing opera. So I was taking Japanese folk song lessons and opera lessons at the same time to see if I could produce those different sounds
mm-hmm.
spontaneously. So really retraining the muscles, like just to be able to bring that up on whatever time. So, and then to figure out if I was actually doing it rather than just imitating, I actually put a camera inside of, it goes through the nose and sits above the vocal cords.
Right.
And so I was actually able to take a video of my vocal cords moving and being able to see the inside of my mouth and how it was moving, and then compare that to Japanese people and how they sang in opera, Western.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it was really cool. So the big differences are, without getting too technical, as far as like the movement of the throat and the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
For opera, we bring this part of the throat, we bring this down and create a lot of space in this area, right?
Right.
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 For Japanese music developed from rote memorization and through just learning it. At least what I was doing was a folk song, learning it while you're sitting around the fire and singing songs, or out on in the rice fields and you're planting rice and singing songs, that type of thing. So it came from this tradition of speaking. So, and when I sing the Japanese folk song, I don't bring this all the way down. I keep it in the same position as I would when I'm speaking.
Mm-hmm.
So the tones are really just an exaggerated speaking. Yeah, they really focus in on the vowels and holding the vowels.
Mm-hmm.
I'll also use, so they have a lot of melismatic tones, or like creating little
Melismatic.
curls and things. That is created by, if you can feel the soft palate in the top of your roof, the roof of your
Mm-hmm.
mouth,
Mm-hmm.
and you bring that up and down.
Oh, uh-huh. Like going yeah,
That's the
yeah, 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 yeah,
that
yeah.
that is the way they create those tones that are like the flourishes that you'll hear in the music, so, which is very different than Western music. In Western music, we're really like specifically creating those da da da, with our whole mouth. But there, it's just that soft palate moving it up and down.
Oh, very
Interesting. Yeah.
interesting.
And then as far as like you asked about the body, standing tall, breathing deeply, all of that is the same, keeping that posture. As far as modern day singing of Japanese folk songs. So it's turned into this tradition, as I already said, like working in the fields, to being something you'd sing on stage. So when you're singing on stage, we bring you very tall, making sure your spine is straight, shoulders are back and down. Hands, though, however, for the Japanese females, always the hands are in the front. You never like open yourself up like I would if I was singing opera. I'd have my hands down by my sides, palms forward, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
For this, you'd still keep the hands in front of the body, kind of very closed, but still spine very straight.
Mm-hmm.
Breathing techniques are identical. So just breathing deeply.
So
Yeah.
the diaphragm.
The diaphragm, yeah.
From the diaphragm.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So I'm wondering, so like going from that kind of really rich learning, where you really had an in-depth study of your own voice and where the tones come from, I wonder how that informs your current, like coming now, years later, 20 years later or something, more than 20 years later, that you're studying sound healing, and how it affects your consciousness, how it affects your healing, I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's a great way to think about it. I had never been really great at memorizing music from sheet music. So when I was in college, my music teacher, my voice teacher was just so frustrated with me because I just couldn't, just like, I just can't do this. But with the rote memorization, I was always on top of that. That I could do, without seeing all the notes, I could like listen and hear. I was hearing the tones. I could recreate those tones, the notes, and that's the best way I could learn. So I'm still using that when I'm doing the sound healing. So the interesting thing about sound healing is that though there's a general formula on how you might move from note to note, or creating harmonious tones, or tones that are not what we would call disharmonious, or dissonant, right? Dissonant sounds. So I feel that because my ear has been so in tune with the actual sounds, that being able to hear different tones and overtones in the instruments has been a real gift for me. And that when I'm creating these tones and creating this healing progression for my clients, that I'm able to do that not only from my intuition, but also because I can hear those rich tones and overtones that are coming through the sounds.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I wonder, like, do you do you use the dissonance? Like, maybe I should just say, how do you use the dissonance, or how do you use the overtones?
Right.
How does that inform you and what you do?
Right. Excellent questions. So two different answers. So with the overtones are telling me the overtones interact with the energy in the room. Right. So if I'm doing a one-on-one client, before the client arrives, I clear the energy in the room so that we have neutral energy. So I do that with the instruments. I also do like saging. I have some like tuning forks that I can play in the room that'll clear the energy so it's neutral. Then once I have a client in the room, then I can use the overtones. Specifically, I have one Tibetan singing bowl that I always use, and I know what that bowl sounds like no matter what. I'm like, oh, okay, that's something's going on here, because I know what that bowl sounds like. And so then when I bring that bowl, I'll hit the bowl, bring it towards the client, I could hear the overtones and how they're interacting with their energy. And then based on what I'm hearing, I could say, okay, this energy is depleted, or this energy is just out there, just over producing, and then I can figure out from that, well, based on what I'm hearing, I can do these other techniques to either clear the energy, clear that stuck energy to make sure that clear it and bring in new energy, positive energy. Or if their energy is like way out there, I can bring it in so they're just not so far open, and just help them bring in their energy either way. So that's how I use the overtones, is by hearing what the energy that's in the room, and then moving from there to decide what to do for that client. And what was the other question?
Well, the dissonance. Then how do you use or feel dissonance, and how do you?
Right. Yeah. So dissonance is amazing in that I use the dissonance to break up energy. So the harmonious tones that really, everybody's like, oh, this feels really good kind of tones, that's to help relax the body. The dissonant ones are to just scoop out that energy, just shake it up, get it moving. Because if the energy is stuck, it's stuck, right? It's not, it's tough. It's like scar tissue, right? So it's not moving, right? So you need to take something in there to give it a little friction and make it start moving. And once it's moving, then we can clear it and get it moving out, move it out, so then I can bring in this positive white light, positive energy back into that spot that's been stuck.
Yeah.
Cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, and I also use because they talk about dissonant sounds, but also shakers. Shakers are also used in that same way. So just shaking different types of, I have like an egg shaker that I use. That's the most basic one. Rain sticks, different things like that. They're all for making the energy start moving.
Yeah. I like to take, I have an egg shaker, and I just use it to me, I like visualize scrubbing my aura. It's just like an eraser on a chalkboard, sort of, it just cheers and cheer, it's amazing how that feels.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Yeah. Just shake it and move it around, and then use maybe a Tibetan singing bowl to calm it down to like
Right.
bring that
Right.
positive energy in. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, yeah. And then sometimes that same like another your analogy or visualization is like sometimes I think of like one of those snow globes for, yeah, it's like you shake up the snow and then it all, settles down to,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
use the egg shaker or any kind of thing like that to kind of like get all of the energy moving, and then the crystal bowls or other things, oming or I don't know what else you might
Right.
might do, but to calm it, settle it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. The crucible and oming is exactly it. The humming is so good for the body. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, yes. I mean, there are whole books and studies done on just the effect of humming.
Right.
Humming.
Humming for health. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
So
I'm
it's
actually I'm actually creating a program right now for people to learn what their own scale is. So each of us have our own individual scales that our body resonates with specifically, which is so cool. So then once you know what your root tone is, then I could give you your scale. So the scale coordinates with the seven chakra, that are energy centers. So the root, sacral, solar plexus, heart, throat, third eye, and the crown. And if you sing, so if you're not feeling well, you can sing or hum on those tones in meditation, and the body will start to heal itself. Uses the vibration. I mean, just like any instrument, the vibration of humming for yourself will um, uh, like heal the cell on the cellular level,
yeah.
mental, emotional, spiritual levels, all levels. Yeah.
That makes so much sense because we know that everything is vibration,
Yeah.
And so if you have something that's out of vibration or is
Right.
dissonant, is stuck, is not working somehow, and then you can introduce a tone that gets things on the same, in harmony, you know?
Right, exactly. Yeah, this is called entrainment, actually, is the
Yeah.
technical term. So entraining the body to vibrate at the tone that you're introducing. Yeah, so it starts to, you know, um, people will start to be on the same rhythm with each other. If you live together, you start to be on the same rhythm. It's that kind of
Right.
idea where it is you are, yeah, in training, or
Training. Yeah.
yeah, it's just so cool.
It is so cool. So cool. So I'm really curious about this idea about having your own scale. It kind of sounds like I did a little experiment once about 20 years ago. I tuned my guitar I tuned like the bass note, which would normally be an E on my guitar, but I just tuned it to the lowest note that my voice could hit. And then
Mm.
I tuned the rest of the guitar to that. And well, it was a really, a really interesting experiment. Like it had an effect on like the way the songs felt in my body. I mean, it just felt like I was able to embody the songs, more than when they were in this other key or in this other tuning. So
Yeah.
I wonder if I was kind of tapping into that, what you're talking
Yes.
about.
Yes, you absolutely were. So that's exactly how I help each person find their root note, is by having them sing the absolute lowest note they can find.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like, but it has to be low. I'm like really
Right.
like dirty low, like
Yeah.
way down there. And
Yeah.
then if finding that note that's so low and that it vibrates in the root,
Yes.
that area. So like around the hips, in the groin area. If it's vibrating in that area, ping pong, you found your root, the note in your root. Is the root of your scale. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So then how do you discern the rest of the scale? Because of course there are many different scales, different intervals of different scales. So once
Mhm.
you find the root, then how do you discern, a person's
Yeah, yeah.
particular?
Now here's the secret. Here's the big secret. It is a Lydian scale, Lydian mode scale.
Oh,
You know what
okay.
I'm talking about? Yeah. So
Yeah.
there, as
Mhm.
you said, there are many different scales. So this one, the one that our bodies are tuned to is the Lydian scale. So if you know what
Oh,
the F. I'm an F, so that's why I was saying my lowest note is an F. But if you find your root, then you'll be, if you go up the scale, the Lydian scale, then you'll know
oh,
what your
very
tones are.
interesting. I wonder why that is. I mean, I guess it's like just how we're made. We have to create the
Yeah.
Lydian scale.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. You know, that's a great question. It's something I've been wanting to look into more. Actually, like why is that?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's really really cool. Mhm.
yeah. So I know you started to go into, talking about yoga, and I kind of, I wanted to
Oh,
hear so much more about the voice, but let's go ahead. So I'm very curious. I know you studied with Matisse, right? Matisse Scott
yes.
here
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Bloomington,
I
but
did.
I was checking up on you a little bit. And I heard an interview with you where you were talking about studying with an Indian man for a couple of months. So I'm curious, who was that? You were just lit up talking about him. So I'm like, who is this man? I want to know because I don't know. I don't know an Indian man who's teaching yoga in Bloomington. So I might have to
Oh,
search
that's
it
hilarious.
out.
That is hilarious. I did not realize how lit up I was. So he is not in.
Absolutely. You made me want to get up at 6 a.m. And that, I mean, like, I say if I'm going to watch the sunrise, it's because I stayed up all night, not because I got up early. I'm a night owl. I'm definitely not a morning bird. So,
Yeah, so he's currently not in Bloomington. He went back to India, and he just opened his own yoga studio in India. His name is Rohan Shroff. Amazing. He was working at one of the yoga studios here in Bloomington, and our my the high school where I was working, we got this email from that yoga studio. It was at Eka Yoga, and there was an email saying Eka Yoga is offering 1 month, get 1 month free for teachers. I was
mm,
like, all right, I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna do it because I've been thinking about it, and I had done yoga when my kids were young, but had stopped doing it because busy mom, full time worker. I just like, all right. Unfortunately, I mean that was the thing that I should have been doing, the self care, and that's what I advocate now for others. But I started going to the 6 a.m. class with Rohan, and he did. They call it classic hatha yoga, and I learned so much from him, and I actually model my classes off of what I learned in the way he did his classes. So the hatha style, doing sun salutations, and not only just doing a sun salutation and moving through it, but in between each salutation, we chanted in Sanskrit the different prayers, basically. And that's where I got tuned into chanting as well, and learning about Sanskrit. And I remember, I mean, it was just so challenging for me because physically I was weak, mentally I was quite honest, I was very depressed at that time, very
mm,
depressed, very unhappy with my home life, unhappy with my work. I was just, I was like bottomed out.
oh,
Um, and but through these classes, I mean, come into Shavasana at the end in our resting pose. And I would have tears almost every single class. And at that time, I had no idea what was going on. I'm like, why do I cry at the end of my yoga class every time? It's not like, not ugly crying, but, just like releases. I now know that it was energetic releases, like through that chanting, through the yoga poses, and really, getting the energy, my stuck energy flowing, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, it was amazing. So it was like Monday through Friday, 6 a.m., Saturday at 9, Sunday at, I can't remember. I mean, and then like halfway through the day in the afternoon, I'd be like, God, I feel like I need to do yoga again. So I'd go back for another class in the afternoon. I mean, it was nuts.
Oh my gosh.
And the afternoon class is where I was introduced to sound healing. There was another teacher who brought his crystal singing bowls, and I was like, I need that in my life. And that is when I bought my own small set of 7 crystal singing bowls, same ones that I'm using today. And I bought those bowls. I had no idea what I was doing, but I would just play based on my musical background, what I thought sounded good together, and just kind of played. Just kind of do what I thought I should do. And eventually I started, I did my yoga teacher training with Matisse, and then I did my sound healing training, level 1 and level 2 through the Sound Healing Academy. And they have one of their teachers is in Iowa. So I went to Iowa for the in-person training, and then a lot of, like online training as well. So it took 2 years to do the whole program. Maybe a little over 2 years because COVID hit, and then things kind of slowed down there for a little while. But yeah,
Right.
Yeah. And so there's 2 different trainings as well. One for groups, like how you work with groups, and how you work with a in-person or just one client in your, is the style is just a little bit different. How you're working with a group as opposed to one individual client.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I didn't realize that your training was so recently. So it's, you completed since COVID.
Yes. Yeah. So my group sound healing just before COVID hit, and then the one-on-one client I was working on during COVID, and that was tough. I did some online, and it ended up being an excellent experience because I was doing online sound healing.
Yeah.
So, because some
I was
people
going to ask you about that, because I've done my crystal bowls. I do them, I have a lot of videos on my page and stuff, where I do these, and and it's amazing how it seems to come through, but I wonder, the effect of the speakers, everybody's computer is different, and the way the sound comes through. So I'm curious about
yeah. Yeah. So what I do is first of all, I have a really good microphone.
right.
And then there's a setting on Zoom that's called original sound. So I always use original sound so that basically it just hears all of the sounds that are happening. Because Zoom is set for voice, which means that it'll cut out all that background echoing and that type of thing automatically. So I change the settings so it'll just pick up whatever you're hearing in the room. And then I also recommend the client using earbuds so that they can hear that.
Right.
And then if they're using a phone or a laptop, I also have them put their hands on top of their laptop so they can actually feel the vibrations of the sounds coming through the computer itself.
Oh, interesting. That's a nice trick. That's a nice trick.
But regardless of whether the client is feeling that physical vibration or not, because this is energy work, right? So we're all connected energetically, as from like we hear of people doing Reiki, for example, long distance, right? Or doing these other different energy healings, long distance. Sound healing is the same way because we're just working with energy. And then
Right.
there's of course, the sound, which is kind of cool on top of that. So what I do is usually here in my room, I would have a massage table right here in the middle of the room, and I would envision the person laying right here in my room as
Mm-hmm.
if they were there, like as if they were in person. And I would
Mm-hmm.
work around the table as if they're in the room. And it is, I almost didn't believe it the first time I tried it. It was just like, I don't know. I just don't know if it's gonna work, but we're gonna try it. And it was crazy. It was like that person was actually in my room.
Wow.
And I could hear like different things just as if they were here. I was using my Tibetan singing bowls to hear with the overtones, to hear their energy. And I was like working this exact same way I would as if they were actually here.
That is so exciting, and the implications of this, of the energy well, I call it entanglement. I'm not exactly sure if this is really exactly the scientific, meaning of the word entanglement, but like there's the scientific thing about where, electrons can affect each other over vast different, and they change immediately.
Yes.
It's like this electron changes this one immediately, and they flip back and forth. So it really seems to me like both with Reiki and with sound healing that we're dealing with this phenomena that I predict that this is going to be scientifically proven someday. That's my, I mean, right now it's not scientifically proven that this is what is happening, but I mean, to me, it sounds so obvious that that is what's happening.
There are actually a lot of studies already that are out there about this, how energy affects each other, or how people's energy can affect other people's energy, or just the energy around
Right.
the world. And even, I actually had a client in Australia a few weeks ago. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not even like, we're a few miles apart or anything. I mean, she was on the opposite side of the world and still able to do a sound healing.
That is just so exciting.
Just so cool to think about that. Yeah.
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 Yeah. So I want to get to the present excitement that's going on in your life. So um um let's see, what do I want to say about that? I know so recently you have well, I'll just tell the story a little bit, right? Because I know you were planning to take a sabbatical for a year, and you had another job lined up, and so you basically quit your job for a year, and you were going to do this other job because you just felt like you needed time off. Once you got into the sabbatical, the other job disappeared, and so there you were, wondering how you're going to pay your mortgage, what you're going to do. And so why don't you pick up there for us? Then what happened
Yes.
after that? What happened after that?
you know, yeah, shoot, so much has happened in the last few months. I honestly feel it was the universe just hitting me over the head saying, Molly, we have been telling you for years and you listen to us, so we're just going to pull the rug out from underneath your feet so that you will start listening. I mean,
Isn't that how it happens sometimes?
that is exactly, I'm
Isn't
like
it?
getting emotional right now just thinking about it. That's exactly what happened. Um, oh man, yeah, was, I have really good days and not so good days on others. Overall, I'm positive and I trust. And that's the big thing. I trust that everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
I, that was, well, it was probably the beginning of the summer where I realized I wasn't going to have a job to support myself this upcoming year while I'm on leave.
Mhm.
And so I started looking into like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to support myself? And what am I passionate about? What is it that I'm passionate about? And it's always been sound, right? It's always
Mhm.
been music. And that is where my love has always been. And I've always been pulled toward it. Always been like, Molly, here it is. Just do it. And I'm self-sabotaging myself, going, I don't have the money to do that. What if I do that? I'm not going to be able to pay my bills. I mean, you hear it all the time. That's how we all are programmed, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I got faced with like, okay, you actually don't have the money to pay the bills right now. What are you going to do? And just going, okay, universe. And we talk about, or you might hear when a couple things come up into my mind. One is when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So in my search with trying to figure out what I'm going to do, because I've been doing as I just said, I had just finished my certifications for sound healing. Though I was doing sessions, it wasn't really, I thought, I have another 5-6 years to full retirement. I thought, by the end of my retirement, I'll be able to do this full time. I'll build up my clients. Everything will be fine. I had this whole plan. I had a plan. My mind had a plan.
Mhm.
And yeah, my soul said, that's not your plan. That's not the plan we have for you. Um, so as I was trying to figure out what to do, I started listening to, well, first of all, people are always telling me, you need to meditate. Just meditate. And I'm just like, oh my God, if someone else tells me to do that, I am not going to meditate. I can't sit still. I mean, just the same excuses everybody has. My mind is crazy. My monkey
Right.
mind. So someone said, well, if at least to calm your mind, because I'm freaking out, right? I have a house. I don't know what I'm going to do. Um, and my friend, she's like, Molly, just listen to a podcast or do something to get your mind off of what's your immediate situation. I'm like, all right.
Right.
So I started listening to this podcast. And the person who was doing that podcast said at the end, he said, yeah, and I have this online Facebook group. If you'd like to join, go here. All right. So I went on, joined the group. Next thing I know, he's like messaging me. He's like, hey, I see you just,
Join my group.
joined the group. How's it going? And so we had this conversation online. Next thing I know, we're on the phone talking. The next thing I know, I'm doing 2 hours of meditation every day. I was like,
Wow.
I
So
went
the
from
group
like,
was about the group was
huh?
about meditation.
This group is about heart centered business makers, business people.
Oh,
So,
okay. I'm in some groups like that.
yeah. So it's what he does. He's currently now my business coach, but he's also spiritual coach. So
Mhm.
spiritual stuff comes first.
Yeah.
And once you release all those blocks from those things that we're holding on to, like the self-sabotage, like I don't have the money to do this, but I have to stay on my job. Like being able
Mm-hmm.
to release those blocks, release those fears,
Mm-hmm.
then we've been moving into the business part. Okay, now how do we nurture our clients, and how do we get more clients, and that type of thing. That's the second thing on the coaching side.
Right.
Um, so with Tyson, I had my spiritual awakening a few years ago. Just felt like I was like, oh my gosh, there's this whole other world out there. But
Mm-hmm.
he's taking me so much deeper in the spiritual side.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been really eye opening for me, and allowing me to just trust that
Mm-hmm.
things will be taken care of for me. things will be
Yes.
taken care of. And in sitting in meditation, I've learned to trust my intuition, trusting those voices that I hear, you know,
Yes.
and trusting that, yeah, just trusting that intuition, I think is the way I want to go with that. And
Hmm.
I, in meditation, I kept hearing, he's just like, you're going to lose everything before you can move forward, is what I kept hearing. I'm like,
Wow.
holy shit, what do you mean I have to lose everything before I can move forward?
Right.
Yeah. So
So
that
that was the message. You have to lose everything, or
yes,
you're going to lose everything. Is that
it
there's a
was
I'm
it was
just
your yeah, it was you're going to lose everything was
wow.
what I was hearing. Not even you have to, but you're going to. You're going
Wow.
to lose everything. So that's where I am right now, honestly. I ended up putting my house on the market, and it has sold. And I've decided to move, obviously. And as I was looking for a place to move to, in something cheaper in Bloomington here, I was looking, and then I'm thinking, why do I want to stay in Bloomington? Was my next thought. What is keeping me in Bloomington?
Mm-hmm. Your
Maybe
kids
there's
have graduated and moved on, so you have an
right.
empty nest again now.
Right, exactly. My kids aren't here. I'm divorced, single. I what is keeping me here? It was this house that I'm sitting in right now is what
Right.
was keeping me here. And this idea that I wouldn't be able to afford leaving. But now, like all these weird things, these things that were holding me back. And so I started looking around like, where can I go? And I love the mountains. I was like, why don't I move to the mountains? So, so I started looking in North Carolina. I was like the Blue Ridge Mountains, but nothing was opening up there. So then started looking in Colorado, where I did my undergraduate at the University of Colorado. So I started looking there, contacted some friends that I had from college, but as well as friends that I had when I was in Japan that are now living in Colorado.
So there's some connections
There are
there.
some connections. So I started looking for places, and I couldn't find anything. I got an offer on my house. It was going to be sold, and I'm like, awesome, but shoot, I don't have a place to live. Okay, talk about trust.
Yes.
Trusting the universe that it's something's going to happen. So I was just looking around again, on online, and went to like long-term Airbnb. And I had looked at this before, but nothing came up like what I thought would be appropriate for what I needed. Because I needed sound healing, like a space to do sound healing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's
Right.
my thing. Um, so I found this place, just fabulous, up in the mountains. It's a health and wellness resort, and they have tiny houses on the resort.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Hadn't heard this part yet. I'm so
yeah, this is new stuff. So I didn't know about the tiny houses at this point. I just saw that they had rooms on their Airbnb, and if you booked it for a longer amount, like more than 30 days, they'd give you 50% off. And I looked at it, and I was like, ooh, even at 50% off, it was out of my price range. I thought, I'm just going to send them a message. So the next thing I know, I'm talking with the owner of this place, the resort, and I'm telling him what I do, and he goes, I also have some tiny houses here on the resort if you're interested in something like that. And he's like, I think this would be a perfect fit for you. Next thing I know, I've signed a contract, a 3-month lease for a tiny house with the budget that I said that I needed
oh
up
my
in the
gosh.
mountain. And he's like, yeah, and you can, store all because it's a tiny house, so literally tiny. I don't have room. I mean, it's probably the size of this room right here. Um, where am I going to put all my instruments if I'm going to actually be living in the space, and how's this all going to work? And he's like, oh, you can just put your instruments in the main lodge. We'll have a place there. You can do sound healing and do your yoga, do whatever you need. we can do that all there. I'm like, holy shit, what just happened? You know?
Right.
So yeah, so that's where I'm headed in on Thursday this week. I am going to be, yeah, this is the part. So I told you I sold my house.
Yeah.
I also have sold everything in my house or gotten rid of everything in my house. So I am taking my 3 fur babies and my sound healing instruments. And I
Wow, you can even take your pets. I mean, that is mind blowing, you
have,
know?
yeah,
I
I
mean, I
know.
mean, all these things had to work out.
Yes, that was the thing. And that was the other thing when I was looking for an apartment in Colorado. At the most, you could have 2 pets, but not 3, And I'm just like, I can't, just, and then you had to have a salary, an income, which I don't have
Right,
an income. You have to prove that you have 2 times more the income, or
right.
2 times more the rent in your income, which I don't have an income. And I have 3 pets. I was just like, doors closing, doors closing. So here we are. So
Yeah.
I have purged everything in my house, and I have the healing for me that has gone on through this purging process has been amazing. I highly recommend that everybody does this. It's like you've got to do it. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, so I'm even going through a box that I brought back from Japan 22 years ago that I've never opened.
Wow.
It has like pictures and letters and all this stuff. So
Wow.
looking at all this stuff, looking at, my life with my family, my mom and my dad when I was little, and just like going through, and I'm actually scanning a lot of it that I want to keep. If I want to keep it, it gets scanned, and then I throw away the physical picture of
Right.
letters, and just being able to, so that part of being able to purge all of those
Hmm.
connections. And
Hmm.
there's so many little things that we have in our houses, like statues and Christmas ornaments and all the craziness and all these attachments that I
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
towards these items, but the healing that's happening because I'm getting rid of them
Hmm.
is immense.
Hmm.
And I'm even looking at things and I'm like, why am I keeping this thing that has such a negative impact on my physical being or my energetic being?
Hmm.
So I'm going like, I don't need this. I don't want this negative thing, a reminder of all this bad stuff in my life and
Right.
sitting out on my counter every day.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So I am one by one. I've already done the purging of the large stuff. That's all
Right.
gone. And now I'm just going through papers and pictures and just doing
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's
I think we can all relate to that feeling of like if you're stepping out on something new and you don't know what's going to happen and the door closed, it's like too many pets, not enough income, not in North Carolina, not this, not that. How do you stay open and clear and committed to continuing? I want all your secrets, Molly. All your secrets.
um, well, I do a lot of crying.
Good. Yeah.
I mean,
That's
it
so
has been
important.
so good. It is. I highly recommend crying too. I feel like I'm going to start crying right now. Oh my gosh! I before I started doing this meditation, so working with Tyson, the number one promise that you have to make when you start working with him is: do you promise to feel to heal?
Mm,
Do
mm,
you promise to feel your emotions? By
mm.
feeling your emotions, you're you're clearing your blocks, you're clearing your fears, you're clearing that space to open yourself up to be able to receive the gifts, to be able to receive that tiny house, to be able
Mm,
to just be open to whatever the universe has in store for you, you know?
yeah.
So that's the secret right there. Meditate, allow yourself to feel the emotions
Mm,
and really feel like deep down,
mm,
to really comfort that inner child. I mean, that's what
mm,
it is, right? It's the inner child that's saying, we don't have enough money, so you can't do that. It's not the adult that's saying that. It's the inner child that's
mm,
insecure and scared. It's the inner child
hmm. Who's
scared.
going to take care of me?
Right. Who's going to take care of me? If you don't have money, adult Molly, who's going to take care of me,
Right,
child
right.
Molly?
Hmm.
Right. So, just as the adult in the relationship with myself, is just comforting that inner child and saying, I hear you. I hear you. I hear what you're saying. And we're going to work through this. And we're going to trust that things are going to open up. And just going through that process of feeling, listening to that inner child, that, that, that heaviness is released. Just emotion after emotion, feeling after feeling is just being released from my body, opening myself up to being able to receive and to understand what's going on. And I mean, even like my sound healing, I feel like has blossomed because of
Hmm.
this. I feel like I'm able to tune in to people and to hear that my intuition better. I'm trusting my intuition,
Yeah.
and being able to, I get even like especially on one-on-one client sessions, I get little hits, like something you know, I'll hear little things like, I was working with someone a few weeks ago, and in the session, I was like, oh, she's having issues because she's adopted and she's doing da, 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 in my mind. And I'm like, wait a minute, she didn't say that. What am I what am I thinking here?
Right.
Guess what?
She's adopted.
She's adopted. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, so after the session, I was, just kind of talking, and she's like, yeah, I've been, anyway, the conversation turned so that I understood that she was actually adopted. So it's like those types of things, though I had intuition before, I suppressed it for so long.
Yeah.
Like people, when from my child and my adulthood, were like, yeah, that's not real. I have heard voices, are, yeah, feeling spirits in my house and in my houses, in different houses that I've lived in. Like, oh my gosh, yeah, I just hear, it's like, oh, did you hear that? And it's like, no, you're the only one. You're just like, just go back to sleep. That was a dream. I'm like, no, that was not a dream. I heard somebody in the house.
Uh,
Yeah, interesting. So just opening myself up to these gifts, has been huge. I
yeah.
kind of went on a rant there. I'm not sure what it was.
Wonderful. I mean, it's all good. Or I would stop you and pull you back, but no, it's all so good. It's so, so good. And I I wonder what you think of, because I try to come up with these theories in my head, because I'm a very, like, I want it scientifically proven, right? So that's one of my little bits of resistance about, like, okay, how does this work? I want to understand it, and I know it does work. I'm my life proves to me that it really does work. And this thing of entanglement and entrainment, both of those things work in different but copacetic ways. And it seems to me like we attract, or we actually notice what we are actually in vibrational harmony with. If we think that it's not going to work out for us, then the very the very few doors that start closing, you go, oh, see, that wasn't going to work out. I'll just go get a job in a factory and settle down in an apartment, whatever you will just go off. And, but I think the meditation, the sound healing, and the yoga, all of those things coming together, and putting those things into alignment, allowing the blocks to be released, actually causes you to be in the vibrational alignment so that you can see these things, and they come to you, and they come to you faster and more assuredly. And when they don't, you don't quite freak out as much, maybe because I go back to the mat, go back to the cushion, back, and like you say, I mean, over time, these small steps, because people don't have to go sell their house to find out, people don't have to, make huge, I used to think I had to make huge changes to make a difference. And that is so untrue, and it stopped me a lot from doing, the little things that I could do, because I thought they're not big enough. That doesn't matter. I need to make the big change, when in fact, it was taking that tiny little change that allowed me to take the next tiny little change, that, changed my route from here to there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so true. Taking those little steps, and I believe that if you're working on your heart's calling, your soul's calling, what we're here to accomplish in our lives, what the reason that we're here, if you can figure out, what your heart's calling is, what your spirit is calling you to do, then even if you have a block, because you still have to work towards it. You can't just sit around and go, okay, I know what it is, I'll just sit here and wait. You still have to work.
Waiting for the universe to bring it to me, right?
Bring it on, I'm waiting. It's not waiting.
True.
So I realize that moving towards a sound healing, and I'm also starting on some life coaching for teachers specifically, being a teacher myself. I know that my calling is to work with teachers that are having difficulty in their jobs right now, and using the sound healing and yoga to help teachers be able to figure out what their calling is where I'm headed at this time. But what I want to say is that my belief is that if we're working towards our heart's calling, and really on that path that we're here to be called, to be doing, that if a door is closed, it's not because we're not supposed to be doing it. It's just that we started to move towards the wrong direction. Right? So we're on this path, and then we're like, oh, maybe this apartment's good. Door is closed. Oh, okay. The universe is saying that that's not the right way. I need to keep working. Okay, let me go over and try this mountain on this side. Oh no. Oh yeah, another door is closed. Let me try this. So the universe is directing us on our path by closing some doors for us. So some people might think that all those doors, well, yeah, I guess I wasn't supposed to be doing that after all. So I'm just going to go back to my teaching job and just stick with the golden handcuffs of the pension and the retirement fund, because they're going to take care of me, but what I want to emphasize is that those doors are being closed because you're getting off the path. It's directing you back onto the path you're supposed to be on, to move you forward and find that place that you're supposed to be. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. So unfortunately, we need to start bringing this to an end. I think I could talk to you for at least several more interviews to get down to the really nitty gritty, interesting to me, like how does all of this work? But I just wonder if you have any, last parting words for those who might right now feel stuck where they are, or be facing something in a situation that is difficult for them, or just any last parting words that you want to share with us before we go.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think we all have our fears of moving forward,
Mm-hmm.
not, and being able to face those fears is one of the most difficult things that we'll do in our lives,
Mm-hmm.
and just really hitting them head on and saying, okay, what is this? Why am I so fearful? And what is it that the universe is trying to teach me here? And what is it that I need to heal within myself to be able to heal and to face that fear, and then move forward on what is my soul's calling, my heart's calling. Um, so I think the key for me was meditation
Yeah.
and allowing myself to just be, and not worrying about the monkey mind in meditation. I hear that a lot. So, let your mind just kind of wander here and there and bring it back and just kind of be, and allow yourself to feel this moment and feel as if what you want has already happened in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Not work on what has happened in the past, because that's the past. You can't change that. Those are like your wounds, those are your scars. We can let those go and move forward from the point you are right now, and new clear that new path in front of you. Yeah, those are my words. My words of wisdom.
Yeah. Sounds pretty wise to me. I think they're the best advice that I've come up with for myself in my own life, is, it all starts with awareness.
Yes.
And the awareness of really allowing the awareness is the discipline of sitting in the meditation. And that's where you just start even beginning to notice, how you're feeling, what works for you, what doesn't work for you. And it's a journey and a process. It's not like, oh, I'm going to sit on my meditation pillow for 10 days in a row and then I'm going to be clear.
Yeah.
you know
Doesn't
no,
work that way.
no.
No.
It's an absolute daily practice, not just daily. For me, it's momentary, like breath by breath. Every single breath is a breath that I can bring myself back to. How am I feeling? And then getting in touch with the feelings, and start noticing, like, with the sound healing and yoga, you start to move that energy and realize, it may feel stuck, but I can move it. It can be moved, it can be changed. And it's a commitment, it's a commitment to yourself,
Yes.
of knowing, as you say, once you if you can tap into your purpose and get clear on your purpose, or should I say, when you can tap in and start getting clear on what is right for you and what isn't right for you, the path starts to be made clearer, and you can start releasing the blocks, and
Mm.
you can walk a little faster maybe, or things,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. So true. So true.
Oh, thank you so much for this wonderful interview. I thought it
Thank
was so
you.
exciting. And I just can't wait to hear what's coming up next for you. And who knows, we might end up meeting up in February in Colorado. We're both we're both
That would
going
be
to be.
awesome.
Yeah, I would love that. And so let's see what the universe brings us.
Yes, let's do that. Yes. Sounds
Uh,
awesome.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
thank you so much for
yeah.
providing this space for us to talk and be able to share. I really appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. Well, I wanted to say one other thing that I just now remembered. So, since I kind of feel like I kind of broke out of my box, my life box that I had created around myself, where I was really depressed back in like 2010 and kind of had the proverbial midlife crisis, like what is it all about, what am I doing? And long story short, I sold everything and took off on a bike across Africa. And um and since then, I've been to 26 countries on like 8 different sailboats and bicycle. And I hear a lot of people tell me, oh, how inspiring it was, or it is for them to hear what I have done. And, I always kind of smile and go, oh, thank you. That's nice, And right now, I am in a place of transition and coming into what's next for me, because I've done the travel. I kind of feel like I did what I needed to do with that part of the travel. And it's not clear exactly what I am, moving on to next. And when I heard about you selling everything and taking off to the mountains, I swear it was just like a flock of birds picked me up. I was just like elevated. It lifted me. And I said, oh, this is what we do for each other. When we find that courage and we bust through that fear and we feel that elevation and that escalate, euphoria, or, the it is palpable to other people. So, not only are you lifting yourself up, but you're lifting all of this who are watching you too. And so I want to say that to anybody who's listening as well. Just remember that as you step through your fear, you elevate everyone else who is touched by you, and you see that.
Those are great words. I got goosebumps. And
I
know, me too. That's awesome. Yeah. And you were actually one inspirational for me as well, because I was like, oh, Makai did that. She just like got rid of everything and went on her ride. I mean, why can't I do that? I remember thinking about that many times.
Yeah. So it's so nice. I lifted you back then, and now you're lifting me now, and reminding me too. It's like, yep, the journey, and it's never done, and it's always, I believe it's like an upward spiral. In the book Siddhartha, Gautama says, I feel like I'm just going around in a circle and I'm feeling the same thing. And Siddhartha says, no, you're not going around in a circle. It's a spiral. Yes. So every time you come back around, you're from a little bit of a higher place, and you have a different perspective. Yes. And different options. Yeah.
Absolutely it. I feel that spiral often. I actually doodle that spiral often. I'm like,
yeah,
on that next curve.
So yes. So here's to all those possibilities. And this is the Peace is Possible podcast. So peace is possible. There are so many possibilities in our lives. So here's to the possibilities.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Makai.
Okay, thank you, Molly.
All right.
Bye.